Hi guys, welcome back to my channel Lush Gardener. In today's video I'm going to talk a little bit on importing of succulents. Is it good or bad? I think it completely depends upon where you live. For me it was not a very good experience of importing succulents, but this is my haworthia white minima because I was not able to find it in my country, hence I had imported it. Now guys, this succulent was imported prior to COVID, early 2019, because my friend was stationed in China, and I had basically paid a lot of money to import the succulent. I had imported around 5 to 6 of them, out of which only 2 of them survived. One was the white minima and one was the pink champagne, and it was a terrible mistake of importing succulents. That's all what I can say. Now I stopped importing succulents not because of COVID, but because it was not working out really well. The experience was terrible. So if you are a beginner, I would say please do not import succulents. Because a lot of beginners find it difficult to even handle a locally or a succulent that is present locally. We find it difficult to grow, and getting a succulent or importing a succulent can be even more tricky because it comes from a very different environment, different climate. A lot of times it might get a little weak inside the transit box, takes a little bit longer period of time. Again, as I said, depends from your country to country. Some people have a little bit faster access because of the courier. In my situation it was not a very good option because my transit box was stuck in customs for almost a month and a half, and then when I received it, out of those 6 succulents, only 2 of them survived. The rest of them were completely had a dry rot. They were completely rotted and turned into like a dry ginger. So it was very disheartening to see, after paying in so much of money. I also had to pay for the plant certificate because that certificate is important, especially when you import any plants. It is a certificate that says or that mentions that the plant is free from any kind of virus or any kind of pest attack or something like that, because in US it will be very strict in importing of the plants. Even in my country as well, it was a little bit tricky. And even after paying so much of amount for the money, because you have to pay extra money for the certification as well, so even after paying money for the certificates as well, what I received was really terrible. So I completely stopped on importing succulents from abroad. So I prefer to buy succulents from another city. If it's not available, I would rather wait but not do any more imports. So it's completely depends upon you, because if you're importing succulents, there is a lot of hassle, there is a lot of paperwork. Apart from that, it's very risky. If the postage is delayed, your plants will die, and trust me that postage is expensive. The plants plus the certificate, everything rounds up, it's quite expensive. And this was the only one that happened to survive. It has put out a lot of pups, and it is doing quite well as of now. This is the haworthia white minima. This tends to grow more in clusters. There is the white one as well as the blue one. The blue one is a little bit more regular ones, but the white one is a little bit more rare, I would say. Usually it's not very common with a lot of sellers, so that's why I had to opt for an import. But that was the last import. I'm not doing it anymore. Now the care requirements remains the same. It took around 3 months for the succulent to settle in my environment. It was taking a very long time. It was quite stretched as well when I received it, because 1.5 months inside the box was not a joke. So it had stretched a lot, but now they are slowly starting to get compact, and they have fared really well. So this was a set of 3. When I received, I was also quite surprised because I thought that I'm just paying for 1, but there were 3 of them, and these 2 have happened to show up later on, so they have grown up in my environment. I'm using the same soil mix, which is loose, porous and well draining. I have added a little bit of sand on the upper layer because this pot was drying out much faster. So I added a very thin layer of sand above so that it can store a little bit of moisture and the succulent can get a quick drink. Because it's a terracotta pot, I have done the same thing. I have cut down the depth of this pot until here. I have put in a lot of broken pots and I have reduced the depth, and then I planted this succulent. So it's doing quite well. Watering, again, it's the same thing what you give for an haworthia. Let the soil dry out completely before watering it again. Fertilizers, do not add any fertilizers during the winter season. It can be done during the summers. Even if you do not add fertilizers, it's absolutely okay. I haven't added any fertilizers to it. Even then, it had this 2 new growth. Propagation is pretty simple. You can do a leaf propagation, but the best thing what I can suggest for haworthia is, because they have a very evident stem, you can do a stem cutting or you can separate the offsets. Like if I want, I can separate the offsets, but I'm going to leave it as it is because I want this succulent to grow in a cluster, so I'm just going to leave them as it is. But if I want, I can do a stem cutting as well. Talking about pest attack, I haven't seen much issues with pest on this plant, but again, you have to do a visual check. So the moment you see 1 millibug as well, start cleaning it up. Put in a little bit of dry cinnamon powder on the upper layer of soil. It's always better to check, because any kind of infestation, if it's handled at the early stage, that is going to work out really well. So that's what you can do. Apart from that, it's a fairly easy to grow succulent. So even if you're a beginner and if you find this, or if you don't find this, you can even buy the blue minima as well. I'll put up the image on the screen because I lost that plant when I was shifting from the other house to this house. Luckily this one survived, but the blue one did not survive. But any which ways, I'll put up the image. Even the blue minima also is absolutely beautiful, looks very similar to the white minima, and it also tends to grow in a form of cluster. Now overall, it's a very easy to grow succulent. If you are a beginner, if you want to add this in your collection, you can definitely add it in your collection. Light, the best thing what you can give is direct morning sunlight for 5 to 6 hours after acclimating it, or you can give indirect bright light. Do not keep it in a low light condition, or do not keep it in a place where it does not get a lot of light. Otherwise it will start to stretch. It will not remain compact. This succulent only stays compact when it gets a good amount of light, be it in form of indirect bright light for a longer period of time, or direct morning sunlight for 5 to 6 hours, after which you can offer indirect bright light, and that's when the succulent will be more compact. Less light will start to stretch this succulent. So guys, that's all about it. I hope that this video was helpful to you. If it was, please hit the like button, and if you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing to it. Until then, take care, stay safe, and keep propagating.